Hello and welcome to Gefet in the Daf. I'm Yael Shimoni, bringing to you together with Hadran and Yeshivat Drisha, learning Daf Yomi and adding to your learning a bit of Iyun. And today I really could not stop myself because we're reaching a very famous daf dealing with the Talmud Torah of women. And since we're approaching the yortzeit of my dear Rav Aaron Lichtenstein, Zichrono Livracha, who taught me a lot of Torah, Baruch Hashem, Torah Sheba'al Peh, and has important things to say about the sugya. So I wanted to do this Gefet for his Ilui Nishmato on Shabbos Bezrat Hashem. May what we learn today will be in his memory. And our question today is how we begin in the daf, move through Rishonim, which we will see Rashi, Tosot, Rambam, and through the Achronim. How come today we have a dran, everybody, so many women are learning Torah Sheba'al Peh, something that seems very, very far from what's written in Sota Daf Chaf Aleph. So let's begin and see what's happening here in the Dapim. And these things are famous and deep, and I'm not gonna cover all of them. This is really just a taste, but an opening for you, those of you who want to learn more, the sugya of Talmud Torah and Nashim. So this sugya, Daf Chaf Aleph, is built on the Mishnah and Daf Chaf. And the Mishnah and Daf Chaf had 3 sections. We'll leave the first section aside, and we're dealing with 2 other sections. The middle of the Mishnah says that if a woman actually did commit adultery, but she had a zchut, she would not die instantly. It would take a while. אם יש לה זכות, הייתה תולה לה, יש זכות עולה שנה אחת, יש זכות עולה בית שנים, יש זכות עולה ג' שנים. And the Gemara in Daf Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph is asking, what zchut are we talking about? And the Gemara says, this cannot be a zchut of a mitzvah, because a zchut of mitzvah is not strong enough. It has to be a zchut of Torah. And this is a very interesting Gemara on the difference between mitzvot and Torah, Talmud Torah. And what the Gemara says, first the Gemara says it's very hard to understand that the woman here is going to be getting zchut Torah because a woman is not chayav like a man, and mitzvah ve'osa. So it has to be zchut the mitzvah. But then the Gemara asks, how can it be zchut the mitzvah? בהתניא, את זו דרש רבי מנחם בר יוסי, כי נר מצווה בתורה אור, תלה, כתוב את המצווה בנר, את התורה באור, את המצווה בנר, לומר לך, מה נר אינה מגינה לפי שעה, מצווה אינה מגינה לפי שעה. And continues the Gemara further and says, דבר אחר, עבירה מחבה מצווה, ואין עבירה מחבה תורה. And here we have a woman with an avera, and we have a woman who's not learning Torah, not doing a mitzvah right now, she's doing an avera, so we have to have Torah to help her. It can't be a mitzvah. Ravina says, Amar Ravina leolam zchut Torah. Okay, it has to be zchut Torah. בתקה אמרת, אינה מצווה ועושה, ני דפיקודי לא מפקדה, באגרא דמקריינו מתניין בניו, ונתר להון לגבריו, עד דעתו מבי מדרסה. Ravina says, it is zchut Torah, but not the women's Torah, because she's not chayav. So it has to be the Torah of her children, which she's bringing to learn Torah, and of her husband. That's the Torah. Let's look at the Rambam, because the Rambam here is not pasking Ravina. He's saying something different. The Rambam in Hilchot Sota Perek Gimel Halacha Chaf says, "Sota שהיה לה זכות תלמוד תורה, אף על פי שאינה מצווה על תלמוד תורה, הרי זאת עולה לה, ואינה מתה לשעתה לה נימוקה והולכת." So the Rambam is not saying that Ravina is right, that the zchut of the Torah is only the zchut of the Torah of others for the women. No, the Rambam says it is still the zchut of her learning Torah. Torah, even though she's not chayav, she won't be getting the super strength of Torah, but still Torah, even this Torah of Ena Mitzvah Vosa is stronger than a mitzvah to keep her partially safe and be matzil her even for 3 years. So this is a very interesting thing to notice, that the Rambam is teaching us how to read the Gemara. Even the Ravina gave this answer, there is another answer that maybe the beginning of the Gemara disagrees with Ravina and is looking for Talmud Torah. Even if it's not the strongest Talmud Torah, still the Talmud Torah of women is strong enough and stronger than a mitzvah in certain senses. Okay, so this is Daf Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph. Let's continue to the second part, the last part of the Mishnah, the machloket between Ben Azai and Rabbi Eliezer. אומרת המשנה בדף כ' עמוד א', מכאן אומר בן עזאי חייב אדם ללמד ביתו תורה שאם תשתה תדע שהזכות עולה לה. רבי אליעזר אומר כל המלמד ביתו תורה כאילו לומדה תפלות. And the כאילו is in brackets. This is a very famous machloket. Ben Azai says that because of what we learned, that Torah protects, a woman has to learn Torah, because if she would be an Isha Sotah and not die instantly, so she won't think that the water is not working, she should understand that it's her Torah that is saving her. That's the Shita of Rabbi Eliezer, and it's an interesting Shita because he had to learn Torah, therefore Torah will protect her, and Rabbi Eliezer is creating a situation that Torah will be a protection for women, and also the reason that they need to learn is so they'll understand that the water is still working. Of course, this is a reason for learning, which is very sour in our mouths. Rabbi Eliezer says, Kol hamelamed bitot Torah ki'ilu lomda tiflut, and the Gemara in the Chaf Aleph Amud Bet is quoting Rabbi Eliezer without the word ki'ilu. And the Gemara asks, Tiflut sal kadata? How can Rabbi Eliezer say that if a father teaches his daughter Torah, he's teaching her tiflut? Ela ema ki'ilu limda tiflut. It is not really tiflut. Torah is not tiflut. It's ki'ilu. And then Rabbi Abahu explains, מה טעם דרבי אליעזר דכתיב אני חוכמה שכנתי עורמה, כיוון שנכנסה חוכמה באדם, נכנסה עמו ערמומיות, that wisdom can sometimes be ערמומיות, says Rabbi Abahu. This machloket is a very famous machloket. And usually when there's a machloket between Rabbi Eliezer and Ben Azai is supposed to win. Because Rabbi Eliezer is a shmuti, and usually halacha is not according to him. But anyway, we look at this, we feel sourness in our mouth, either what Rabbi Eliezer says or Ben Azai. Let's look at the Tosfot here, because the Tosfot tells us, Yael, you should expand your view. In this sugya, it is very important to see the Yerushalmi, and we've seen it that many times Tosfot adds Yerushalmi to us. And here the Yerushalmi adds two more deot in the Tanaim on this subject. So let's read it. Tosfot Yerushalmi. The Ben Azai, דלא כרבי אלעזר בן עזריה, דדריש, הקל את העם, האנשים והטף, האנשים באו ללמוד, נשים לשמוע. So first, the Tosfot quotes the Yerushalmi, and he tells us that this quote also exists in our Gemara in Masechet Chagiga. Rabbi Eliezer thinks that women do learn Torah, not like men, but they do learn Torah. It's not as if they don't learn at all. How do we know that? Because there's mitzvah of hakel. Hakel, everybody needs to come. And the children, it is said, they need to come to give sachar for their bringers, like what we saw in Daf Chaf Aleph for women when they bring their children. But women are supposed to be there, according to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, to hear. So there's learning and there's hearing, but obviously women are not like the taf, which are there just to give sachar for whoever is bringing them. So women are learning Torah in a certain way, a way of lishma. And the Tosfot says, ונראה, דפרש למצווה לשמוע כדי שידעו אנשים לקיים מצווה, ולא משום שידעו שזכות עולה. So the Tosfot says, you should notice that Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah is different from Ben Azai. Ben Azai gave a reason that was sour in our mouth. The reason that we learn Torah is that we'll know this halachot of sota. But according to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, the reason that you come to learn Torah is so you'll know to do mitzvahs. That's a positive reason, not a negative reason. So the Tosfot enlightens these words of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah and shows us there's a day of learning Torah that is not a dark or sour feeling around this learning. Continues the Tosfot and brings us another day of Rabbi Eliezer, which is much harder to hear than the day that we have here in the Gemara, which was hard enough in itself. מטרונה שאלה את רבי אליעזר מפני מה חטא אחד במעשה עגל ומתים בה 3 מיתות. A woman asked Rabbi Eliezer why in Chet HaEgel there was one sin, but 3 different kinds of punishments. אמר לה, אין אישה חכמה אלא בפלך. I won't answer you, you go work with your פלך. אמר לו הורקנוס בנו בשביל שלא להשיבה דבר אחד מהתורה, הבאתם מנהיגים על מאות קור מעשר בכל שנה. אמר לו, יצרפו דברי תורה ולא ימסרו דברי תורה לנשים. So here we have Rabbi Eliezer saying, not כל המלמד ביתו תורה כאילו לימדה תפלות, but ישרפו דברי תורה ואל ימסרו לנשים. Another thing that I want to see here, besides the Tosfot that added 2 more understandings of women in Torah, is Rashi here explaining what is the tiflut that Rabbi Eliezer is talking about. We mentioned that tiflut is is a word that has many, many meanings, and ki'ilu tiflut. But here Rashi says, what is ki'ilu tiflut? שמתוכה היא מבינה ערמומיות ועושה דבריה בעצניה. According to Rashi, when Rabbi Eliezer said to Ben Azai, tiflut, he meant, your reason for learning is the reason that I oppose learning. Why? Because if a woman learns and knows that her Torah will protect her, she will learn to do her deeds and her deeds of adultery, behetznea. She will learn that it is okay to a certain extent to be mesana. That's a very, very hard Rashi because he takes Rabbi Eliezer and makes him much harder to accept. And as we know, or we will see soon, there's a machloket between Rashi here and the Rambam, which I promise to show you mamash in a few minutes. So let's sum up what we saw up till now. We saw 4 different deot in the Tanaim, 2 different variations of Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer in the Yerushalmi is the strongest speaker, saying Yisrafu divrei Torah b'ali masru lenashim. Rabbi Eliezer in the Bavli is much softer. Melamed bitot Torah ki'ilu limdat tiflut, after the softness of the Gemara. But we saw that Rashi is adding a very sour taste to this Rabbi Eliezer, because Rabbi Eliezer says that learning Torah will cause women to be mezanot more. And then we had Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah and Ben Azai. So Ben Azai said chayav, and it seems as if he's the one who's the most pro Talmud Torah and Nashim. But we said that also his reasoning is hard in the heart. And maybe in a sense, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, which says it's a mitzvah, mitzvat hakel, he doesn't say chayav, he says it's a mitzvah, but it is also a chova, and there is a lightness about this learning because it's a learning in order to do mitzvot and has nothing to do with the issues of sota. So that's what we saw up till now. Now I want to move into the Rambam. And going to the Rambam, and the Rambam is going to be pasking in the Shulchan Aruch, we want to know which daya did the Rambam take. Rabbi Eliezer in the Yerushalmi, Rabbi Eliezer of the Bavli, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, or Ben Azai, and Rabbi Eliezer in the Bavli, did he understand him like Rashi? So let's look at the Rambam, very famous Rambam, Talmud Torah, Perek Aleph, Halacha Yud Gimel, says the Rambam, Isha shelamda Torah, ויש לה שכר, אבל אינו כשכר איש, מפני שלא נצטוות, וכל העושה דבר שאינו מצווה עליו לעשותו, אין שכרו כשכר המצווה שעשה, אלא פחות ממנו, ואף על פי שיש לה שכר, ציוו חכמים שלא ילמד אדם את ביתו תורה, מפני שרוב הנשים אין דעתם מכוונת להתלמד, אלא הן מוציאות דברי תורה לדברי הוואי, לפי עניות דעתן. אמרו חכמים, כל המלמד את ביתו תורה, כאילו לימדה תפלות, במה דברים אמורים בתורה שבעל פה, אבל תורה שבכתב לא ילמד אותה לכתחילה, ואם לימדה אינו כמלמדה תפלות. So 3 interesting things in the Rambam. One is that the Rambam says that a woman that learns is okay. He's only saying that you cannot teach her. Another thing that he says that most of the women are not smart enough to learn Torah. And then he also has a chiluk between Torah shebichtav and Torah shebe'al peh. And a lot has been written on this Rambam. And I want to look at a few commentaries regarding this Rambam. So the first commentary will be the Prisha. The Prisha is a parshan on the Torah, and he's Rabbi Yoshua Falk from the 1960s in Poland, and he was the student of the Maharsha and the Rama, and he says you should listen very closely to the word Rov in the Rambam. It says the Prisha, Aval im lamda le'atzma anu ro'im she'yatza min harov. Says the Prisha, if a woman learns for herself, that is proof that she's not part of the Rov, and therefore you are allowed to teach her. But as long as she doesn't learn on her own, you can't teach her because you never know what's in her heart. So the Prisha is saying that this word Rov here in the Rambam actually creates a whole set of women that will be able to learn Torah and that you could teach Torah. Women who want to learn Torah on their own are the candidates of being students for Torah because they've proven that they're able and that they want to learn Torah, and therefore they're not part of this Isur that has to do on Divrei Havai. That's the Prisha. And now I want to look at the Chida. The Chida, Rabbi Chaim Yosef David Azulai from Morocco, and then he came he's originally from a family from Morocco, but he lived in Jerusalem, and he wrote a lot of different Sefarim, famous Sefarim, and also he wrote a Shut. And in his Shut Tov Ayin, he was asked about Talmud Torah and Nashim, and he has a very interesting reading in the Rambam. He begins by asking two very strong questions on the Rambam. First, he quotes the Rambam, and then he says, "V'kashe de'en halacha kerabbi Eliezer deshmuti hu." Says the Chida, we're not supposed to be pasking according to Rabbi Eliezer. He's Bet Shammai. How can the Rambam take Rabbi Eliezer and be pasking according to him? ותו, ואמרינן בעירובין, דברוריה, בת שבה ותלמידה, ודרשה פסוק, ובפסחים, אמרו דברוריה גם רק תלת מהשמטה, ביומא, נתלת מהרבתה, במלאכה כרבי אליעזר, איך רבי חנינא בן תרדיון אביה, בתלת מאות רבתה מלמדיה, עברו יחדיו, והיו מלמדים אותה תורה שבעל פה. Says the Chida, we know of Bruria. Bruria was a Tanaite, and she learned. And not only she learned, she was taught by 300 different Tanaim, Mishnayos. So how could it be that her father, Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion, a very big rabbi, one of Aseret Orgei Malchut, and all these 300 Tanaim were being over on an Isur? How could that be? So first, the Chida says maybe it's because at that time, nobody understood that Torah could be dangerous for adultery, but actually, you should know that the story of Bruria turned sour and bad. We will not go into that now. So maybe what we're talking about is prior to Bruria and after Bruria. But says the Chida, no, I don't accept that. ואולם אין בזה כדי סביעה. דמי יגיד לרמב"ם זה, ודילמה אין הלכה כרבי אליעזר? ואם קרה משהו לברוריה, אין לנו לגזור מדעתנו ולקבוע הלכה, כל מה שלא מצינו זה ברזל. So he continues to ask on the Rambam, and what is his answer? ונראה, לסבר הרמב"ם, דרבי יהושע דתנן, דאמר רוצה אישה בקו ותפלות סבר, דאפילו תורה שבכתב. אך רבי אליעזר דאמר מלמדת תפלות לא אמר אלא על תורה שבעל פה. והנה רש"י פירש מלמדת תפלות שנכנסה עורמה בקרבה ועושה דברי זנות באצנעה. והרמב"ם לא רוצה לפרש כן. דמעית איך לימדו לברוריה תלת מאה רבנן ואביה רבי חנניה בן תרדיון יודע. לכן פירש הרמב"ם דפירוש דברי תפלות היינו שאינה מכוונת ללמוד אלא מוציאה דברי תורה לדברי הוואי, ובברוריה שהכירו בה שהייתה כוונתם ללמוד בכל ליבה וגדל שכלה, לכן לימדוה. Says the Chida, from Bruria, the Rambam learned the idea of Rov, and also because the Rambam read the Sugya differently. Remember that Rashi said that Tiflut was that a woman will learn to be a Sota if she learns Torah. But according to the Rambam, Tiflut, he explained the meaning of the word differently. He said that Tiflut means somebody who doesn't know how to learn. And Bruria obviously did know how to learn. So the Rambam is cholek on the understanding of Rabbi Eliezer. And, well, I didn't go very much into it. What also the Chida says is that actually the Rambam is pasking according to Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua together, and that's why it's not a problem for Rabbi Eliezer to be from Bet Shammai. But bottom line, the meaning of Tiflut is not like Rashi. According to Rashi, Tiflut means understanding and doing adultery with Torah. And according to Rambam, Tiflut means not being able to learn. And of course, the disability of learning, once women really did not learn, didn't know how to read and write. And of course, there were always women who were much higher in their intellect on their own, autodidacts, know how to learn. So Bruria was obviously one of them. And the minute that you saw such a woman, there is no Isur on teaching her. So that's the Chida, and the Chida is actually approaching what the Prisha said, but from a different angle, very interesting angle. So as we mentioned before, the Rambam was pasked in the Shulchan Aruch, and according to that, only very talented women who prove to be strong of mind can be taught Torah. But it cannot be taught to everybody on a huge basis. You only have to be special in order to learn Torah. So first, the Ramah here says, the Ramah says, no, you should know that even women who are not smart have to learn Torah. Have to learn Torah in order to do their dinim. So we have here two openings in the learning of Torah for all women. One is if you're talented. Another is that all women have to learn Torah to the extent that they can do mitzvot according to the Rama. But, of course, all of this is very different than what's happening today. And from this Gefet that I'm giving you, I'm opening this. I'm not checking who's listening to me, women or men, or how intellectual you are. We're not choosing. We're opening the world of Torah up to everyone. So what is happening here, and how is this connected to Rabbi Eliezer and the Psak of Rambam and Shulchan Aruch and Ramah? So there has been a change in the last 100 years, and let's follow it briefly. Very famous text from the Chafetz Chaim. This is not the only famous text, but the Chafetz Chaim says that there has been a difference. What is the difference? The Chafetz Chaim gives two differences. ונראה, וכל זה דווקא בזמנים שלפנינו, שכל אחד היה דר במקום אבותיו, וקבלת האבות היה חזק מאוד אצל כל אחד ואחד. אבל כעת בעוונותינו הרבים, שקבלת האבות מתרופף מאוד, וגם מצוי שאינו דר במקום אבותיו כלל, ובפרט אותם שמרגילים עצמם ללמוד כתב ולשון העמים, בוודאי מצווה רבה ללמדם חומש וגם נביאים וכתובים ומוסרי ז"ל, כגון מסכת אבות וספר מנורת המאור, כדי שתמת אצלם עניין אמונתנו הקדושה, דאילאו הכי, עלול שיסורו לגמרי מדרך השם ויעברו על כל יסודי הדת חס וחלילה. Says the Chafetz Chaim two differences. One, the Masoret has been broken. Yes, people are traveling around. They don't keep doing what their parents have done. So you can't trust women just to learn from their mothers. That does not exist anymore. And also, women are taught limudei chol. So if you have a woman that doesn't have a masoret and is taught limudei chol, she will just be over on kol yesodot hadat. So you have to teach her Torah so she can be religious. That's what the Chafetz Chaim says, and in other places he says that if you're giving her to eat from Etz Hadat, you have to give her to eat from Etz HaChaim. So these are changes. Some of them are good. I think that women started to get educated. Some of them are bad, breaking of the Masoret. But what the Chafetz Chaim said was not to teach Torah Sheba'al Peh Gemara. He means teaching in order to keep you religious. This is not what we're doing. So what are we doing? Let's look at Rav Chaim David Halevi, Rav Rashi in Israel, in Shuda Selech Harav. And here he starts and answers the question, can you teach women Gemara in school? And first he talks about Sugya, and he says, ולכאורה נראה דברו שאסור ללמד בנות תורה שבעל פה, after what we've seen. אבל, אומר רב חיים דוד הלוי, כבר הוכיחה המציאות שרבות בנות עשו חיל ולמדו תורה והפליגו, וקראתי גמרא החידה בשם רבנו שמשון, שאישה נזכרת בבית החולקת עם התנאים, וציין כחידוש למצוא אישה בגבול התנאים, והוסיף שהמר"ם החידה שאותה אישה את הברוריה אשת רבי מאיר, ועוד העריך וציין שהרשב"ץ גדול המורים הביא תירוץ בשם רבנית אחת, ובנו עצמם הביא שני דינים שחידשה עם רבנית, וציין עוד ספרים שרבניות שאלו שאלות וכולי, אין שם באורך. The Chida has a very interesting book, Shem Agdolim, and there he writes of many women from the Tanaim throughout different generations who were quoted by Talmidei Chachamim. So we had Rabbaniyot throughout history. So maybe you can teach women Torah. Continues Rav Chaim David Halevi and says, אמנם, הרוצה לדחות ידחה בקלות, שכל האיסור אינו אלא על האב, אבל לא מצאנו שהאיסור על האישה שלא תלמד בעצמה. Maybe, says Rav Chaim David Halevi, you tell me that all these women was because they taught themselves. But, says Rav Chaim David Halevi, היא עצמה קשה ביותר. מדוע נאסר על אב ללמד ביתו תורה ולא נאסר על האישה? הלא החשש שיוציאו דברי תורה לדברי ההווי קיים בין כך ובין כך. This is Rav Chaim David Halevi, I don't understand. If the problem is that we're afraid that the women will do something bad with the Torah, that's also a problem if she learns on her own. So this is not a good enough answer. And then he has a חידוש. ומכאן נראה לי להמציא חידוש בהלכה זו. וממנה פתח יותר ללמד הבנות תורה. בתחילה נקדים שבסיס טעם האיסור הוא רוב. שאם אישה רוצה ללמוד, זה בסדר. ועתה יובן שהאיסור חל על האב ללמד ביתו, והיינו מן הסתם בנותיו הקטנות. כאשר איש אינו יודע כוונתם ויציבותם, בין כל ביטחון שכאשר תגדל עליו יצמח קלקול בלימוד זה, אבל כאשר גדלה הבת ובגרה בשכלה, מגלה רצון כן ללמוד ממש, הרי הוכיחה שאני שייכת לאותם רוב נשים שאין דעתם מכוונת להתלמד. הוסיף גם את הנימוק שהזכרת בדברי שאלתך בזמננו, במיוחד אלו שלומדות לימודים אחרים ברמה גבוהה, כי נראה שבזמנים הראשונים, כאשר הייתה אישה עקרת בית, הבנות לא למדו כל עיקר, והיה קיים חשש של לימוד התורה, שכולה חוכמה, תגרום להם אולי נזק. ולא התירו ללמדם אלא דינם נחוצה להם לבלי בד, אבל בזמננו של לומדות ליהודים כלליים, בכל הרצינות הראויה, למה ייגרו דברי תורה? Says Rav Chaim David Halevi, today our women are learning in high school. So if they're learning in high school, it proves that they're not small women who don't understand. They're already big, they have good data. So anyone who learns in high school proves that she does not belong to the Isur that the Rambam described. ולכן, says רב חיים דוד הלוי, בנות הרוצות ללמוד תורה שבעל פה, פה, בבתי ספר תיכונים, שעצם לימודם שם מוכיח על בגרות שכלית ורצון ללמוד בידע, מותר ללמדם תורה, שהיא שם חיים לא עוסקים בה, וקיום מצוותיו שנודעו לטוב לנו כל הימים, לחיותנו ביום הזה. So רב חיים דוד הלוי says, wait to high school. If you have a high school student, then, and you see that she's a good student in general, so teach her Torah, because she is not part of the Isurim of the Rambam. But then, we're not talking about primary school. We're not talking about opening the Torah to everyone equally. So Rav Chaim David Levi took us a lot further, but not to where we are today. So now I want to quote Rav Aaron Lichtenstein, Zecher Tzedek Livracha, my Rav, my teacher, Alav Shalom, and he gave an interview in 1980 when I was born. And here he says something which is much further than what Rav Chaim David Levi said. And he says the following, לדעתי רצוי וצריך לא רק אפשר, לתת חינוך אינטנסיבי לבנות גם ממקורות התושבע. חינוך אינטנסיבי, לא רק אפשר, רצוי וצריך. בין אם משום שהטענה שנשים עוסקות בכל המקצועות, ובין אם משום דברי החפץ חיים שצריך ללמד גר עיקרי הדת, אני מקבל בהחלט תפיסת הבית הלוי שלאישה יש צורך בלימוד תורה, כדי שמבחינה מעשית תדע מה לעשות, וצריך ללמוד הרבה יותר כדי שתדע מה לעשות. אין לי שום התנגדות ללמד בנות גמרא. But, says the Rav, אני גם לא משוכנע שרצוי ללחוץ על בת ללמוד גמרא בצורה כל כך אינטנסיבית. בהלכה בכל זאת יש מקום להבדל בין האיש ובין מקום האישה. בסופו של דבר התפקוד בחיים שונה. אבל אם נדבר על היכולת ללמוד דף גמרא, להבין אותו, ליהנות ממנו, אני רואה שום סיבה שלא לכוון ללמד זאת לבנות, אפילו צריך למסד את זה כחלק אינטגרלי של למידה בבית ספר, שיעור ממשי, כך אני מלמד ביתי, כך הונחה אשתי, וזאת נראית לי הדרך המומלצת לציבור הבנות בדורנו. So it says, the Rav, learning to enjoy Gemara, learning dapei Gemara, not to learn super intensively, the same pressure that you have on men, that I don't think you have to do for women. There's still a difference, says the Rav. But learning Gemara, Pshat Gemara, to enjoy the Gemara and know the Gemara, that's something that I think everybody needs to learn. And that's how you should teach women. So I think what we do today is much closer to what Rav Aaron Lichtenstein is saying here and what we've seen before. And if we add the two things together, saying that everybody should learn to enjoy the Pei Gemara and learn Gemara, and then those who are gifted in Gemara should do it much more intensively and seriously if they want to get on the high level that they need in order to be Talmidei Chachamim, then we reach more what we have today. So today, I really could not keep myself to open this issue of Talmud Torah Nashim, and there's much more to look at it from many different angles. But we saw that even though it seems like a huge difference between what is in the Gemara to what we have today, when you learn deeply, you see the connection and movement between what was and between what's today. And we see that in the last 100 years, there has been a big change. And I think the change is still taking place and moving forward. And Be'ezrat Hashem, more and more people will learn Torah Shebe'al Peh, definitely on the basic level. And the basic level is very high. And those of you who want to become Talmidei Chachamim know that to do that, you need to do much more. And Bezrat Hashem, where everybody have koach to learn Torah and enjoy Torah and do the mitzvot and have Talmud Torah part of their lives in different and rich ways. Bezrat Hashem. And may this learning will be for the zecher of Tzadik Livracha, Rav Aaron Lichtenstein, my dear teacher. Bezrat Hashem, I hope to meet you next week. Take care.